Hello everyone, welcome to the Rectory Garden here in Tatchley Lane, Prestbury. It's lovely to be able to talk to you. I'm just going to introduce a new idea. It's a video of members of congregations at St Mary's and St Nicholas. Some people have sent me video contributions which we're going to include in this short magazine for you. We have contributions from Michael Gardner, who's a baker, who you may remember made our harvest loaves last October at St Mary's and St Nicholas. He's going to show us how to bake bread. We have a gardening piece from David Lyle, filmed in his lovely garden at Shaw Green Lane, which I'm sure you will have visited at our biannual open gardens maybe last summer. We have Matt Allison, his photograph album, some extracts from that, from his wonderful pictures. We have some short open the book video contributions from Mrs. Lyle, from Diane Lyle, who's going to share those with us for our more junior members. And we also have even a sport review, a review of the curtailed or likely curtailed football and rugby seasons from Mark Halliwell, who I'm sure you know is a journalist on the Echo and commentates on Cheltenham Town Football Club every Saturday, which I understand is a kind of penance. I can only say that because I'm a Bristol City fan. And lastly, not leastly, we have an article called Super John, where you will see one of our youngest members from St Nicholas, John Wilson, in an entirely new light. You thought he was just a young toddler, but this boy is a superhero, and we look forward to that to conclude the video. Thank you for watching. Enjoy.
We've put the timings here, so if you need to skip forward or back, you know where to go. So first up, we go over to Michael, who's going to show us how to make some bread.
Good day everyone, my name is Michael Gardner. I've done a lot of baking throughout the years, and today I thought it might help to cheer everyone up if we made some bread. This is the recipe we're using today for basic white bread. The flour that I'm using today is Allinson's strong bread making flour. Strong white Allinson's. But it doesn't actually matter which strong you buy, what make, as long as it is strong flour and not plain flour. And there are many types of dried yeast you can buy. This one is Hovis, but just pick up whatever you can and we'll get started. Okay, on the table we've got flour, salt and yeast. So first of all we make a bay. I'm using a plastic scraper which you can get from Amazon, shaped like that. The flat edge is for scraping and the round edge is for the bowls. They're quite useful, but you don't have to have one if you haven't got one. Okay, so into the middle I'm putting the water. And a tablespoon of oil and a teaspoon or thereabouts of honey. Doesn't matter if it's slightly over. And then using one hand we start mixing and adding the flour very slowly from the inside. Don't try and pull in the sides, otherwise you might end up with wet feet. So we just mix this in until thick, almost there. Bread making is really good fun for the family, and you can all join in. I've had children make bread using this method and they love it. So scrape all that in. And then using both hands, the fingers, we shake the flour in. The reason why we do this is because we want all the flour to come in to the mix, so that if we do start to squeeze it without getting all the flour in, it would actually go up our arms, be so sticky. So use the scraper to scrape everything in, keep everything clean. If you notice I'm not using a bowl, I don't like washing up, but this is the way I was taught many years ago. I was at college. So that's nice and stringy now. As you can see, it's all stringy. So now I'm just going to squash it together. Like so. Cleaning up the table as we go. And to knead, the way you knead is you use one hand to hold it and the other one to slide, and you roll it back up, turn it round and slide. Don't worry about your hands being messy, they will actually clean up as you go along. Just keep moving it and sliding across. The reason why we do this is it's developing the gluten. The gluten is the stretchy bit which is in the dough. Keep moving it around, cleaning the table up as you go, or work surface. You don't need to go to any gym, just make a bit of bread. If you get tired, just change hands. And if you get tired from both hands, you get somebody else in the family to help. It doesn't take that long to knead, but you'll notice the dough will change as you start kneading and going through the process. It'll get smoother and smoother. Now, there is something else I do, is I do this as well, which saves your arms from getting too tired. So you're just stretching it. You won't harm the dough, and it's a bit of fun. But I will say, if children are doing this, you'll need to keep an eye on them. Otherwise you might find the dough across the kitchen. Now that's already started changing now. That's nice and smooth. So we're almost there now. So I'm rolling that up a bit. There we go. And that's all done. The way to check whether it's done, unfortunately I haven't got a light to shine underneath, but you can get the general idea. You should be able to stretch it until you get a very fine film which you can almost put your fingers through and it doesn't split. And you can see it's splitting a little bit, but it's not too bad. That's done now. So now we leave that to rest. So we need to cover that up, keep it in a warm place and let it double in size. I'm going to put that in there and I'm going to put some cling film over the top and leave it for about 45 minutes. Okay, my dough has been resting for 45 minutes in a warm place, and as you can see it's doubled in size. So now I'm taking it out. You can see all the air bubbles, or I should say carbon dioxide, which causes the bubbles. Get it all out of the bowl and onto the table. Okay, if you wanted to make a double mix, you would have enough to make a large tin and a small tin and a little bit left over. But for this dough, I'm just going to make a small loaf, and the rest is going to be I'm going to make into rolls. So I'm just weighing this off now. So I need a pound for a pound tin, and obviously a £2 for or 450 or 900 grams, depending on the size of the tin. So this one, if you don't have a bread tin, you can just roll it round like that and just place it on the tin like that, and then you can put a cut on it or something, make it into Coburg. But I'm making a tin, so I'm using my knuckles to flatten it and then just rolling it up tightly like so, and that goes into the tin like that. Here's my tin which has been greased. Whoops, that was a bad shot, wasn't it? There we go. Now we need to cover that, so we put some cling film or something over the top like so, and keep it in a warm place, and that will come up maybe at half an hour, maybe an hour. It can be, it just depends on the temperature of the room. So the last but not least, I'm weighing this off into some baps. So we'll do them into two and a half ounces. Sorry, I keep flipping from ounces to grams. It's 28 grams to the ounce, so you can work it out if you want to do grams. Okay, nearly done. So there you go, you've got 4 rolls, which I'm going to just roll round now, like so, like so. and then a little piece there. I'm going to turn that into a little cottage. Then the rest I'm going to just roll them out into flour and they become baps. I use baking parchment or baking paper. Don't use greaseproof because greaseproof it will stick. So should have three baps and one cottage. I'm just sieving a bit of flour over the top, and the cottage will stick in there. I may put a bit of flour on that actually as well, make it soft, and then we'll cover that up, and being careful not for anything to stick to it, and then leave that for about 45 minutes, and that's it. And then I'll come back to you. Okay, these have risen up now, as you can see. I will say that dried yeast is alright, but it's not half as good as fresh yeast. So if you can get fresh yeast, it is better. So I floured the top of the loaf because I really want a soft loaf. So I'm just going to cut that across the top. This isn't very sharp. And then we'll bake that in the oven. Okay, these were baked in the oven at 220 degrees to start with, in a fan assisted oven, and then I turned it down to 210. The baps are in for about 8 minutes, and the bread was about 15 to 20 minutes. Depends on your oven. But I just wanted to show you the size it comes out, and with when you sift flour over it, it always makes it soft. So you can see these are very soft, these baps, and you can see these have jumped up in the oven too. And one final note, in the National Geographic magazine it says bread is back. So I hope you enjoyed this video and enjoyed making bread. I will do others if people would like it. Bye for now.
Thanks, Michael. Now we're going to go over to David, who's going to show us around his garden.
Well, here is a view of our garden, some of the projects we've done and some that we're planning to do over the next few weeks. That belongs to somebody else. This is our sort of vegetable patch and flower bed, and before Christmas we cut the raspberries well back and they're now starting to shoot. This is a bed we cleared out last year and put in new raspberries. There's a summer crop here which are very nice, but then there's an autumn variety which just goes on and on way into October last year. A gooseberry bush in the corner which is spiky and productive. Wonderful Prunus taihaku that we put in the early days of being here. Blossoms very nicely but doesn't actually produce any fruit. Here's a black currant that the old wood was cut out last autumn, so there's new 1-year-old growth, 2-year-old growth that should produce some lovely fruit. In the background a bit of curly kale. We've still got some leeks left, and although they've bolted, they still cut up very nicely and soft to go with a cheese sauce and carrots. Carrots are all finished now. Round the corner, I'm actually just laid out some stone to replace a rotten old wooden retaining wall. Job for the next week or so. There's a red currant bush where the wood is 2 or 3 years old, and it tends to fruit on last year's wood. And another black currant, which again has been cut back so there's new growth to produce. This bed usually has strawberries in it, but they're really rather old, so the plan would have been to clear all those out and put in fresh strawberry plants, but nothing doing at the garden centre at the moment. We've got here 3 types of apple on one cordon. It's a very nice idea. The central one is obviously much stronger and suppressing the others, and they don't, to be honest, produce much in the way of apples, possibly because I haven't yet worked out how to prune them properly. And then we go round into the rest of the garden where there's going to be lots of weeding and lots, hopefully, of fresh growth. That's the mulberry tree, which is most unusual, put in by the previous owners 40 years ago now, and crops fantastically. There was an old pear tree here when we first arrived, which we replaced with a plum tree, but as you can see that hasn't survived, unfortunately, so it's been taken out. And round to the store and a little play area for the grandchildren, but no playing this year. So hopefully in the next few weeks everybody will be allowed to come out and enjoy these things better, and the colour of the garden will have developed even further. But hopefully week by week we'll be able to see these things.
Thanks, David. Over to Matt next, who sent in some pictures he's been taking during his daily exercise. Thanks for sending those in, Matt. And if you'd like to be involved in the next episode of the magazine, details are coming up at the end. Next, we go over to a very special edition of Open the Book.
Hello everyone. We're going to do our home version of Open the Book, and this story is called Jesus and the Taxman. Do you know what taxes are? I think a lot of us do. Taxes are money grown-ups have to give to the government to pay for things like roads and hospitals and schools. It was the same in the time of Jesus, except that the people who collected the money, the tax collectors, always took a little bit extra for themselves. Just imagine if you went to pay your taxes and the tax collector said, imagine, it said that's £2.50 for your taxes, and then another 50p extra to help pay for my big new car. You wouldn't like it one little bit. Today, we've got a story about a taxman who nobody liked, but he made a surprising choice which changed his life forever. So, we're going to open the book and read Jesus and the Taxman. Jesus is coming, somebody shouted. Jesus is coming to Jericho. And everybody ran out to meet him. Well, almost everybody. For there was one man, one wee little man, who did not run out to meet Jesus, and his name was Zacchaeus. There was a man called Zacchaeus. He really wanted to see Jesus. He did, he really did. But not only was Zacchaeus short, he was also afraid of the crowd. Not many people liked him, you see, partly because he was a tax collector, but mostly because he collected more taxes than he was supposed to and kept what was left for himself. Jesus is here, somebody shouted. Jesus is here in Jericho. And everybody cheered as he walked through the city gates. Well, almost everybody. For Zacchaeus did not feel like cheering at all. He wanted to see Jesus, he really did. But how could he walk out there, in front of all those people he cheated? What would they do if they got a hold of him? Then Zacchaeus had an idea. There were trees by the city gates, tall, leafy trees. If he could sneak behind some of those trees and climb one of them, he could see Jesus for himself and not be seen. So off he went, out of his house, through the empty streets. And because the crowd was watching Jesus, he had no trouble at all slipping behind them and shinning up a tree. "Come and eat at my house," one person called. "No, come to my house." And because it was a great honour to host someone as important as Jesus, everybody shouted at once. Well, almost everybody. For there was one man, one wee little man, who kept his mouth shut and tried hard not to rustle the branches. "Thank you very much," said Jesus. "You're all very kind, but I have already decided where I will eat my dinner." Then Jesus looked straight at the trees and called, "Zacchaeus, Zacchaeus, come down. I'm eating at your house today." "Zacchaeus," someone shouted. "Jesus is eating with Zacchaeus. Oh, he's the worst man in town. There must be some mistake. Why would someone as good as Jesus want to eat with someone bad like him?" But Zacchaeus was happy, happier than he'd been for a long time. And so, with a smile spreading across his face, Zacchaeus led Jesus to his house. Oh, I'm trying to turn it round. I can't. Anyway. "What are they saying?" someone whispered. "What are they doing in there?" Everybody gathered round the taxman's door. That's when Zacchaeus threw open his door and came back out.
Greetings, everyone. I have an announcement to make. I've been talking with my new friend Jesus and realised that there are a few things I need to change. I've cheated some of you, I admit that, and I want you to know that I am sorry. So sorry, in fact, that I will pay you back 4 times more than I had stole from you. And what is more, I intend to sell half of what I owe and give the money to the poor.
The crowd was shocked. Never in their whole lives had they seen anyone change just like that. They stood there with their mouths wide open, and nobody said a thing. Well, almost nobody. "Don't you see," Jesus said to the crowd, "God has sent me to share his love with everybody, even those who have done some very bad things." Whoops. That was a bit fast. "That's what I have done. And now Zacchaeus loves God too." That's when the crowd began to cheer. Jesus and Zacchaeus and the whole town of Jericho. Everybody. Hooray!
Hooray, hooray.
And that's the end of our Open the Book story. But we'll finish with a little moment of reflection. If I can turn... Actually, David, can you just take... I can't seem to turn it round. So if you just... So, as soon as Zacchaeus realised that God loved him, even though he'd done wrong things, he knew he had to change the way he lived and put things right with his neighbours. So close your eyes and think about whether there are things you do that hurt others. Can you be like Zacchaeus and change the way you live? Now, I'm going to say a prayer, and if you want to make it your prayer, say Amen at the end after me. Dear God, if there is anything in our lives that needs to change, please help us so we choose what is good, choose what is right, choose what is true. Amen. Amen. This is a song about Zacchaeus, which I learnt about 35 years ago when I used to take our children, now in their late 30s, to Rockers, which was the preschool group at Presbytery St Mary's Church. So we'll have a sing of this with Zacchaeus here doing the actions. Let's see. First time I've sung this for about 35 years. Zacchaeus was a very little man, and a very little man was he. He climbed up into the sycamore tree for the Saviour he wanted to see. And as the Saviour walked on by, he looked into the tree and said, "Now, Zacchaeus, you come down, for I'm coming to your house for tea."
Thanks, David and Diane. And now we go over to our sports correspondent, Mark.
It's been a tough time for sports fans. We're all feeling a little bit of cold turkey with no real sport to watch. I bet even Father Nick's missing out on Bristol City's charge to the Premier League. But the players haven't been, they haven't been quiet in the last few days. All the Cheltenham Town players I know have been given training programmes to do at home. And some of them have even been phoning up season ticket holders to make sure that they're okay. The sort of more elderly season ticket holders, the manager and a couple of the players have been on the phone to them. And just today, some of the Cheltenham Town players have started to raise money for the NHS with a head shave. They've started a crowdfunder page and already have raised around £500, which means that the captain, Ben Tozer, has just shaved all his hair off. And they're going to nominate different players to do it. The more money they raise, to the NHS, which is a good thing to do. Hopefully we'll have some sport on soon, and I know for a fact that my mother will be absolutely gutted that Wimbledon's been cancelled.
Thanks, Mark. And last but not least, we have a trailer for the upcoming North Cheltenham team movie, Super John. Enjoy! That's all we've got time for this week, but we'd love you to be involved in the next episode, so please send in your photos or videos to news@northchelt.org.uk. Thanks for watching!